but without all the complexity of either one of those. So this is really bringing the future into the present.
But it's the speed, right? I mean,
It's
if
the
you were to
speed,
go
absolutely.
private, I mean, even a private plane or what, it's
Yeah.
just not practical to go
No,
from Burbank to into the
exactly.
LA area or
Yeah.
San Bernardino or Orange County. Like that's
Right.
just it's
Long Beach,
yeah.
all the things you mentioned. That's right. So you may get folks.
So how many trips would you say? So
Yeah.
like let's say I'm in Orange County
Yeah.
Airport, I want to get into LA. I mean, could I, with that range, how many could I get there and back or like
You could, and we think about it. So if we take a typical trip, let's sort of break it down and into an Uber or Lyft, the things that people use every day, right? So the average length of an Uber trip is about 20 to 30 kilometer miles,
Mhm.
right? And some are less, a few or more, right? So if I take that, we think that we could do roughly 10 to 12 of those per day,
Okay.
depending on where we are as we go in. If we think about, we come in, we land, things hook up. If we choose to sort of do a quick recharge, need about 10 minutes, get you back notionally back up to close to 80%. So it's almost in some ways analogous to what you have on an electrical an EV today. I own an EV, and so it's somewhat similar to that. Or we may decide, if I've got 100 miles of range and I've got, two, three, I may do two sort. I may do an out and back and out and back, and then choose to charge there. So you can plug that into your modeling for the day to see where do you have your most efficient charging take place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I do see this on the defense like
Yeah.
tab and
Yes.
I don't know what are you thinking about here?
Well, if we think about where, our nation's defense, right? Think about it from a use case, right? Whether we're talking about out to, you think about from a carrier, you've got a carrier group, if you will. And from a carrier group, you've got a lot of other ships that are accompanying that. That ability to do that ability to transport, our men and women in uniform is something else that certainly a part of our team is focused on, right? And so what does that look like? And then we're, certainly our CEO and Adam Goldstein, we're thinking about what future variants of Midnight might look like. That could be hybrid variant, could be something that, of course, and we think about range and payload is certainly the kinds of things that the defense is looking for. And so those are the kind of things that we're working with. And thus our partnership with Anduril helps us unlock a lot of what's happening there, right? We've made some other strategic partnerships that we continue to work on, some of which we've announced, some we haven't. And all of it is just designed around what do we need to do, both on the commercial side. And there are other use cases around the world than just, of course, there's that unlocking inner city travel. But there's so many parts of the world, Mark, as you well know, that don't have connectivity,
Hmm.
right? That where they've either lost essential air services, as we refer to it as. So this opportunity to take something like Midnight, whether it be in Africa, whether it be in Asia, whether it be Middle East, whether it be and of course across the United States, there are, I would argue, unlimited opportunities there. Now, to put that in context for your audience, the last, on any given year, last year in the U.S., we flew almost a billion. We have a billion enplanements. What does that mean? That means one person getting on and off a flight, right? We almost a billion of those. On a global scale, but IATA's number, the International Air Transport Association numbers, that was close to 4 point some billion, almost close to 5 billion people. That's over half the world's population. That flew last year, right? So clearly, when we think of opportunity is there. So what we are starting to see on a global basis in the UAE and in Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and Japan and elsewhere, folks are starting to do that. It's one of the signature events last year was at the Osaka Kansai Expo, where they were looking at, okay, let's do what you and I are now talking about now. Let's go try that as a trial. What does that look like? What's the charging infrastructure? What is the surface infrastructure? So it's one thing for Archer to bring Midnight to market, and we are going to do that. And you have to ensure what is the rest of that infrastructure, the surface infrastructure for one. US has lots of heliports. Most of those can be easily configured to accommodate an eVTOL, right? That's not always the case elsewhere in the world. So you're starting to see this rapid ramp up in terms of surface infrastructure, vertiport. The FAA has already put out guidance on vertiports. And so when we think of things like those required safety margins, FADO, one of the terms, which is final approach and takeoff and things like that. What's the charging look like, right? Beta has been one of the strong leaders, Beta Technologies out of Vermont, and they partner with Archer as well. And so we're partnering with them in terms of a common charging architecture and standard, right? We think, you go to a gas station, everybody can gas up. It's not like, oh my goodness, you got one car, so you can't go gas here, right? So those are the kind of things that we think are key unlocks in terms of the infrastructure and the energy delivery, if you will.
Do you think, and I imagine there's people working on this all over the world.
Yeah.
How are we doing in the US in terms
And
of, competitive wise? And,
yeah,
are you getting some tailwinds?
yeah, it's an excellent question.